Hey everyone, tonight we're diving deep into the fossil record. And not for dinosaurs, mammoths, or any of the usual suspects. No, tonight's journey is all about the weird ones. The evolutionary experiments, the biological cryptids, the fossils that made paleontologists say, "What the hell is that?" and then say it again for 50 straight years. We're talking about sea monsters that may not be animals, goldfish with iron-filled mystery organs, and ancient beings that look like someone gave coral a nervous breakdown. So, if you're into slow, sleep-friendly storytelling with just a touch of scientific existential dread, go ahead and like the video and subscribe if you want more of these odd, relaxing deep dives. And before we begin, let me know in the comments, where are you listening from and what time is it for you? I love seeing just how far these bedtime stories manage to travel. Now, dim your lights, maybe get cozy under a fossil-patterned blanket if you have one, and let's unravel the ancient mysteries that science still hasn't figured out. You are not supposed to exist. Not in any familiar way, at least. No bones, no jaws, no relatives anyone can agree on. No label that makes sense in the great tree of life. But still, there you are, gliding silently through the silty waters of an ancient carboniferous sea. You do not know what a future is, or a museum, or a human. You only know the push and pull of brackish tides, the sting of suspended silt in your proboscis, the slow, scanning twist of your eyes on stalks that bloom sideways from your flattened cigar of a body, like misplaced thoughts growing out of a dream. You are the monster. Later, you will be called the Tully Monster, or Tully Monstrum Gregarium, if someone wants to sound clever. You will be the state fossil of Illinois, though no one will know what you are. Not even the people who dig you up, polish you, name you, classify you, argue about you over coffee and chalkboards. They will guess. They will draw lines between you and worms, conodonts, mollusks, fish, aliens. None of it will matter. They'll always get it a little bit wrong. But for now, in the warm, swampy shallows of what will one day be called Mazon Creek, you are just living. Strange, small, and alive. You're not a large creature, 14 inches give or take. Your body is soft and unsegmented, like a living ribbon. You lack a skeleton, and your flesh is pliable, slightly translucent, like something that should have melted in the sun long ago but didn't. Evolution, in your case, appears to have been performed by committee. A proboscis juts from your front like a meat straw, ending in a small claw, a jawless pincer designed not to chew, but to grip. It is not elegant, it is functional. It snatches. You hover through the water column, not crawling along the floor, not fixed to the reef. You swim, you squirm, you maneuver with the casual grace of a creature whose body knows more than its brain. Not that your brain is useless, it's just not where anyone would expect it to be. People will debate whether you even have a true brain, or whether your neural tissue is just a sort of directional fog tucked away near your not quite ahead. That doesn't bother you. You don't need to think, you react. Your world is dim, and it stinks of rotting vegetation. Gigantic horsetails and seed ferns line the shores, towering like leafy scaffolding. You don't go up there. That's not your place. You stay submerged in the soft folds of oxygen-poor water where the sun doesn't fully penetrate. The water is warm but not friendly, still but not safe. And yet you glide. You skim over ancient polycha eatworms and trilobites and primitive fish with eyes too large and limbs too small. You drift through schools of unbothered shrimp-like creatures, and sometimes you lunge, not with speed, not with violence, but with inevitability. Your claw closes over something tender, and it disappears into your tubular mouth before it has time to protest. You are a predator. Barely. You leave no bite marks, no shells to crack. You are soft. Your prey is softer. If something eats you, you don't fossilize. You are a statistical impossibility, fossilized not because of your design, but in spite of it. You happen to live in just the right place at just the right time. The Mason Creek Formation is a freak of preservation, its iron-rich nodules capturing delicate creatures that should have melted into the mud. You're not a survivor. You're a glitch, a ghost caught in stone. When your body finally comes to rest, it sinks into the sediment without fanfare. No one notices, nothing mourns, no kin come to investigate. You are not mourned because your world does not mourn. It merely forgets. The mud settles, the iron hardens. Time unravels into pressure, and you become a fossil. Or rather, you become a question. In 1958, someone finds you. A man walking the soft shale banks of the Mason Creek, collecting curiosities. He picks you out of the rock like a secret. You don't look like anything he's seen. He brings you to experts. They don't know what to make of you either. Your fossil spreads. From drawer to drawer, from photo to photo, field museum paleontologists stare at your remains like cryptographers staring at an alien language. Cigar body, stalked eyes, lobed tail, the pincer, the mouth, the void where a spine should be. What are you? Some say you're a mollusk. Others think you're a vertebrate. For a moment, scientists will think they've cracked it, linking you to lampreys, pointing to a possible notochord, tiny eyes with crystalline structure. A vertebrate, they say. Then someone else notices a detail that unravels the whole theory. Again, you slip through taxonomy like a shadow, and still you remain. Sealed in nodules, captured in clay. A perfect little freak, a leftover from a chapter no one else remembers. So here you are, in the silence, your stalked eyes dim, your soft claw still. The water is long gone, the tides stilled by a few 100 million years and a few 100 million tons of rock. But somewhere, in a drawer, in a slab, in a museum, under soft light and softer understanding, you linger. You are the Tully monster, and no one, not even now, knows quite what to do with you. But you're not the only one to haunt the shallows with no name and too many questions. Far to the west, and deeper in time, another soft-bodied oddity waits beneath limestone layers, one even stranger than you. A creature so confusing, it was easier to ignore than to explain. You're not welcome here. Not in the way the trilobites are. Not like the cartilaginous fish with their lazy arcs across the seafloor. Not even like the mollusks, who at least have the courtesy to fit into someone's chart. You do not belong in this tidy version of ancient history. You're the wrong shape, the wrong material, the wrong everything. And that's exactly why you're here. You awaken in Bear Gulch, a shallow basin in what will someday be called Montana. But right now, it's underwater. Everything is underwater. A warm inland sea curls over limestone ridges, wrapping you in a cloak of silt and twilight. You do not swim with purpose. You drift. You hover. You pulse with a silent arrogance, as if daring the ecosystem to explain you. You are Typhloesus, a name you'll never hear, but one that will linger in the fossil record like a whispered insult. Some will call you an alien goldfish. They mean it affectionately. Kind of. Your body is small, less than 3 inches, the length of a curled finger. You're spindle-shaped, like a drop of mercury suspended in a slow-motion fall. You lack external limbs, gills, mouthparts, or anything remotely comforting. No dorsal fin, no articulated jaw, no face. Just that faint, organic glint of tissue, a hint of musculature, maybe, and at the tail end, one singular fin, like a punctuation mark, implying meaning that never quite arrives. You don't move like the others. You twitch. You glide without rhythm. You are not part of the school. You are the dream they have when they sleep, a bad one. Inside you, something pulses, an organ that has never been seen before or since. Later, it will be named the ferrodiscus, a structure so baffling that paleontologists will spend decades arguing over what it could be. It's filled with iron. Not metaphorically, literally. High concentrations of metallic iron, as if your biology thought that maybe you'd be better as a compass. Theories will form. It was magnetic. It regulated internal pressure. It was ornamental. No one knows. And that's just the beginning of your anatomical crimes. You have no anus, no clear gut, and no limbs. You do, however, have a long, tubular organ tucked inside you, lined with sharp, tooth-like structures. One day, someone will call this a toothy tongue. Another will call it a nightmare. Both are technically correct. You hunt in the twilight waters. You do not chase. You do not pounce. You simply approach. Slowly. Unnervingly. And then, from deep within your gut, that muscular, weaponized ribbon shoots outward, grabbing prey and pulling it inward before anything has time to escape. You don't even chew. You just consume. Your food does not know what hit it. And, ironically, neither do the people who find you millions of years later. In the 1970s, someone cracks open a slab of Bear Gulch limestone and finds your imprint. You look like a ghost someone gave up, drawing halfway through, a vague outline, a hint of intent. You're labelled, then ignored, misfiled, avoided. No one wants to deal with you. You are the fossil equivalent of an unsolvable riddle, the kind that gives graduate students ulcers. Years pass. You sit in a drawer, waiting. Eventually, someone braver, or perhaps more desperate, takes another look. They see teeth. They see a mouth, sort of. They see your strange gut and the tail, and that mysterious iron disc, and they panic a little. Theories form like bubbles. You're a conodont, they say. That explains the teeth. But it doesn't. Not really. Because eventually they realise that the teeth aren't yours. They're inside you, sure, but they belong to someone else, something else you ate. You've swallowed another creature whole, and in death, the two of you fossilise together in a way that misled everyone for decades. The scientists sigh. Back to square one. You are a carnivore. That much is clear. A solitary predator in an ecosystem not built for you. A swimmer without symmetry. A hunter without context. A creature of absence as much as presence. Even the modern comparisons fail. Some say you're a mollusk, maybe related to slugs or cephalopods, but mollusks at least make sense. You do not. You remain undescribed for 30 years, a line item, an anomaly. Then, in 2022, someone dares to say it, mollusk. The toothy tongue, the iron disc, the weird propulsion. It's just strange enough to be molluscan. Maybe you're a relative of gastropods. Maybe you're an evolutionary dead end with mollusk-like habits. Maybe. But then someone else raises a hand and says, "No, Radulay, the tongue-like rasping tools of mollusks evolved multiple times, independently, so even that is no guarantee. You might be something else entirely. You might be the last of your kind, or the first. The fossil record does not repeat itself. It stutters. And here you are, caught in that stutter. Typhloesus, the alien goldfish. A creature that didn't ask to be studied, just to be left alone. Your iron core pulses in silence. Your tongue twitches in memory, and the sea around you grows darker. No one knows what you are, and that's just how you like it. You do not match. You do not fit. Not into a group, not into a chart, not even into a basic sense of biological decorum. But that's the theme here, isn't it? The soft-bodied mystery of the Tully monster, the drifting metallic tongue of Typhloesus, and now, you, two shapes that don't even pretend to be normal. Two fossils discovered so close to one another, and yet so dissimilar that future scientists won't compare you to other animals. They'll compare you to letters. You are Adachistes, and you are Esmasia, or, as they'll call you, the H and Y animals. You begin, like the others, in the Mason Creek Formation, an ancient time capsule buried in the prairie state swamps of prehistoric Illinois. It's humid. Oxygen is thick in the air, but under the shallow sea, things are quiet. You don't stir much, you don't rush, you grow. And grow. You, Adachistes, are the letter H made flesh. Two vertical limbs with a connecting bar. Symmetrical, sort of. Ridiculous, entirely. Future observers will say you look like scaffolding with an organic tumour lodged in the middle. They won't be wrong. That central bulge? It changes shape depending on who you are. Some of your kind have a circle, others a heart, a few something vaguely triangular, all part of the same species, or colony rather. You're not a single organism in the way we usually think of it. You're a community, a living system of cells that expand with time, adding more pieces to the whole. You don't grow up, you grow out. Your limbs, or are they stalks, stretch outward, firm but flexible. They might have been used for attachment, or maybe for feeding, maybe both, maybe neither. Even your function, like your form, is variable. You don't rush to clarify. You exist in multiple sizes, baby H's and old, lumbering H's. The ocean floor occasionally receives your discarded parts, like nature's alphabet soup. You float, you root, you drift. And then you fossilize. Beside you, though not beside you in life, grows something only slightly less strange. You are Esmasia, the Y-shaped one. More restrained in appearance than your H-shaped neighbour, but more problematic in every other way. If Adachistes is a loud question mark, you're a quiet contradiction. From a distance, you resemble a sea anemone. Two arms, or maybe tentacles, jut out from a central stem. Between them sits your mouth, a large, slit-like opening, not so much a feeding hole as a suggestion of one. You are radially symmetrical at first glance, but no, not quite. Something is off. You have a gut, a full digestive tract, a butt. This, apparently, is unacceptable. Because sea anemones, your closest lookalikes, do not have those things. They are elegant sacs. You are a walking defiance. So, despite your resemblance, you are not one of them. You don't belong to any known phylum with confidence. Maybe you never did. Your arms? They move. Possibly. They might have captured plankton, or they might have just been there. Future paleontologists will note the bilateral symmetry, the digestive features, the unsettling possibility that you're not even close to what they think you are. And yet, you are here, enshrined in concretions, hidden in shale like a biological typo. The strangest part? You weren't meant to be famous. You were just one of many strange, soft-bodied creatures that the Maison Creek Formation sealed in time. But your shapes were too unnatural to ignore. Adakistes, with your absurd architecture. Esmasia, with your wrong anatomy. You weren't just rare, you were inconvenient. Some will suggest you might belong to the hemichordates, a bizarre group that includes acorn worms and graptolites halfway between vertebrates and invertebrates. Others will tentatively group you with cnidarians. But no one sounds confident when they do it. They're not naming you so much as politely escorting you out of scientific discomfort. You don't mind. You have no ego to bruise. You simply existed. Long ago, in warm, shallow waters, you drifted, fed, grew, reproduced, died. You left no skeleton, no legacy, no relatives, just impressions in stone. And those impressions, they look like letters. Not words, not meaning, just shapes. Shapes that hint at life, but don't explain it. Forms that resemble function, but don't clarify it. Creatures that belong to nothing but the past. And maybe that's enough. So here you are, the H and Y animals, drifting through a prehistoric story with no resolution. Fossils not of known animals, but of possibility. The kind of life that makes paleontologists squint, then sigh, then shrug. A reminder that the past is not always prologue. Sometimes it's just a riddle carved into rock. And just beyond you, older things still wait. Bizarre things. Things from the very dawn of animal life. Things not even shaped like letters, just shadows, patterns, alien echoes in the stone. We go deeper now, further back, to the end of the Precambrian, to a creature that looks like a coral if it had regrets. You were never shaped like a letter. You were shaped like a vessel. While Adakistes stretched its limbs into geometric absurdity, and Esmasia split into a biological Y, you were stillness made solid, anchored, immobile, haunting. You didn't move across the seafloor. You became part of it, a chalice rooted in darkness. Long before vertebrates dreamed of spines. Long before trilobites etched the seabed with their armoured parades. There was you, Nama Calathus. You are born into the ancient twilight of the Ediacaran period, somewhere between 550 and 541 million years ago. The Earth is different here, simpler in its chaos. There are no forests, no flying things, no predators yet, but life is no less strange. In fact, it may never be stranger than it is now. Your body grows from the seabed like an offering. A stem, calcified and rigid, supports your globular goblet-like head. You resemble a flower, or a mushroom, or a drinking vessel left behind by some cautious prehistoric god. Your skeleton is made of calcium carbonate, an absurd luxury at this point in Earth's story. Almost no one else is building hard parts yet. But you? You've already begun. You are among the oldest skeletal animals we've found. And yes, that makes you special. But it also makes you lonely. You live in the abyss, literally. The deep sea plains, where light never touches. You do not walk. You do not chase. You wait. You filter nutrients from passing water, your porous crown pierced by multiple symmetrical holes, openings that look to future eyes, like windows in a haunted house. Sometimes they're round, sometimes heart-shaped, or crescent, or hexagonal. Their purpose? Unknown. They might have helped you feed, or breathe, or maybe they just were. Some strange consequence of your body building itself from rules no longer remembered. When future scientists find you, they won't know what to make of you. They will say, you look like coral, and you do, in a way. Static, stalked, pocked with mystery. But when they study your structure, when they really look, they'll realize you're too complex, too deliberate. You're not just a sponge, you're not just a plant, you're an animal. They'll argue over what kind. Some say you're a lithophorid, part of a group that includes brachiopods and bryozoans, filter feeders with crown-like feeding organs. That would be neat, but the evidence never quite aligns. Others place you outside all known categories, calling you an enigma, a one-off, a side branch in evolution's messy tree. They're not wrong. You are part of the Nama group, a final flourish of life before the Cambrian explosion changes everything. You are one of the last of your kind, a holdover from a world that's about to end, evolutionarily speaking. And you live beautifully. You cluster together in reef-like gardens, colonies of goblets whispering into the current. You do not compete. You do not migrate. Your job is simple: exist, survive, replicate, fossilize, if you're lucky, and you are. Oh, you are. Your calcified body preserves well, your shape holds, and millions of years later, someone will pry open ancient rock and see your profile pressed into stone like a fossilized icon. They'll give you a name, Namacalathus Hermanastes, the goblet of Nama, the watcher of time. And yet, even then, you will not explain yourself. Because even in death, you keep your secrets. Your biology is too old, too alien, no eyes, no limbs, no obvious organs, just a stem and a cup, a chalice with holes, a face that never was. But still, there is meaning in your silence. You are a bridge between worlds, between soft-bodied enigma and hard-shelled survival, between strange Ediacaran mats and the riotous Cambrian reefs soon to come. You are not loud, you are not fast, but you are first. The first to build a skeleton, the first to calcify, the first to rise up, if only a few inches, from the seafloor to taste the current and say, I am more than just a shape in the mud. And now your colonies have collapsed. The ocean has changed. The abyss swallowed its architects. But you remain, cradled in rock, watched by confused scientists and sleepy-eyed museum visitors who can't quite believe you were real. You are. And now we go deeper, beyond the Cambrian, before the first skeletons, to a place where life itself is still being debated, where the fossils might not even be fossils, just imprints of something that almost lived. The water gets older now, the rocks darker, the questions louder, and you become the Franzvillian biota. You are older than the idea of animals, older than symmetry, older than mouths, older than fear. When Namacalathus built its calcium chalices in the Ediacaran seas, you were already a fossil. Or maybe you weren't. Even now, the debate continues, were you ever alive at all? If so, you would be the oldest macroscopic life ever discovered. And if not, you are still the most convincing ghost in Earth's ancient stone. You exist, whatever you are, in what will become Gabon, Africa, 2.1 billion years ago, a time before multicellular life was supposed to exist. before the world had learned to organize itself into bodies, let alone strange ones. The air is strange here, heavy, laced with oxygen, yes, but not much else. The continents are barely landmasses, just speckled blotches of rock, still trying to figure out where they belong. The oceans are thick, dark, full of metal-rich sediment and ancient bacteria. And there, in the shallow margins of a delta, you appear. You are not one thing. You are many, a scattered collection of shapes pressed into ancient black shale. Some of you are round. Some are elongated. Some look like pearls strung together, others like tubes, or flowers, or soft spirals left behind by something uncertain. You have no bones, no shells, no organs that anyone can find. Just the impressions of form, shapes with margins, but not definition. You are subtle, flat, dim. A sketch of life on the edge of plausibility. And yet, there's structure, repetition, patterns that shouldn't exist in a purely geological context. You're not just minerals, you might be something more. Multicellular, colonial, eukaryotic, or perhaps not. You don't swim, you don't feed, you don't even move probably. You're too early for that, too early for almost everything. You simply rest. Planktonic, perhaps, or sessile. Existing in the warm, gently oxidized waters of a world still figuring out what life is supposed to look like. When modern scientists find you, they hesitate. At first, they think you're just artifacts, marks left by gas bubbles, or sediment collapsing in oddly organized ways. But there are too many of you, and you're too specific. They test your chemistry. They find zinc in concentrations that suggest some kind of metabolic activity, something biological, something alive, maybe. And so the term emerges, Franzvillian biota, a polite way of saying, we don't know what these are, but we're pretty sure they're important. If you're real, if you are a life form, you shatter the timeline of evolution. You beat all the other multicellular organisms by over 400 million years. That's not a small revision. That's a rewrite. But again, no one agrees. Some say you were primitive colonies of eukaryotic cells, early experiments in multicellularity that bloomed briefly in the oxygenated shallows, then vanished without descendants. Others say you're inorganic, the result of mineral precipitation, pseudofossils, wishful thinking etched in stone. But when viewed under the microscope, your walls are structured, your forms too consistent. Even your placement, stacked in layers, gently descending through sediment, speaks of life, or something very close to it. And so, you become a kind of biological Schrodinger's cat, neither confirmed nor dismissed, both alive and not alive, depending on who's holding the fossil. What's most frustrating for the living is how passive you are. You don't roar, you don't swim, you don't fight or feed or procreate in ways that leave clues. You don't give them anything vivid, just disc shapes, tube trails, elongated shadows, a billion years too early. And yet, you existed, or you didn't, but you left a mark. And in paleontology, that's sometimes more real than truth. If you were alive, then maybe, just maybe, you had a role. Perhaps you absorbed nutrients through your outer membrane. Perhaps you formed gelatinous colonies, floating near warm vent streams. Perhaps your shapes helped you drift, filter, survive. Or perhaps you didn't live long. Perhaps you were a failed experiment, a biological one-off in Earth's long trial and error phase, a brief flicker of complexity, extinguished before it could find a niche. Some will even say you were part of an ecosystem, that you lived in hot, shallow deltaic pools, that you didn't swim, but floated, planktonic wafers drifting in primordial broth, waiting for nothing in particular. The funny part? If you really were alive, you had no idea you were the first. No idea that billions of years later, something with fingers would find your imprint, scan it, question it, argue over it. You just were. And when the oxygen dipped, when Earth's temporary breath of life collapsed, you vanished. No bones, no shells, no legacy, just a riddle in the rocks. But even riddles get chapters, because life didn't give up after you. It tried again and again, and eventually it succeeded. Stranger forms followed, squishier, stalkier, tentacle-ridden things that grew with intention. And among them, one would slide through the Cambrian seas, arms folded, eyes on stalks, body like a kite, funnel like a mouth. Another that almost looked familiar. Almost. We go forward now, not to clarity, but to more confusion, because the next creature will almost look like something we know. A shrimp, perhaps, or a squid, or a dream. Next, you are Nectocaris, and you are about to ruin everything. You almost make sense, and that's the worst part. After the maddening ambiguity of the Franzvillian biota, your shape is recognizable. Familiar, even. You have a body, fins, eyes, a streamlined form, something a child might call a squid or a shrimp. You don't look like a fungus, or a geometric scribble, or a sentient punctuation mark. You look like something, which makes the confusion worse. You are Nectocaris, the swimming shrimp, or rather, Nectocaris pteryx, if we're being formal. You awaken in the Cambrian Sea, roughly 500 million years ago. The world is exploding with life. For the first time in history, teeth and armour and eyes are everywhere. Predators hunt, prey flees, burrowers dig, swimmers swarm. Everything is new, dangerous, and eager to evolve. And you drift. You are not armoured. You are soft, fragile, awkward. Your body is kite-shaped, flat, flexible, capable of graceful pulses through the water column. 2 side fins flutter like ribbons. 2 stalked eyes peer outward with cautious clarity. You move with elegance, but your design feels inverted. The first fossil of you will be discovered in 1910 in the dark shale of British Columbia. You'll be labelled a shrimp. What else could you be? You have a tail, after all. Something that might be fins. A segmented silhouette. The guess makes sense. But then you're ignored. For decades. Your fossil sits in a drawer like a misread sentence. No one realises how wrong they are until almost 100 years later. Then, in 2010, everything changes. A flurry of new specimens, 91 to be exact, are unearthed from the Burgess Shale. They reveal a full body, not just a tail, not just an outline, a creature complete. And suddenly, you're not a shrimp at all. You're something else entirely. You have no segmented limbs, no articulated claws. Instead, 2 long, delicate tentacles hang from beneath your body, possibly arms, possibly probes. No mouth is visible. Instead, you have a funnel, a wide muscular opening beneath your body. Some paleontologists will describe it as a reversible proboscis, a soft organ that can turn inside out. It's as if someone tried to design a squid using only rumours. A cephalopod, but wrong. The idea spreads. Perhaps you are the first cephalopod, older than ammonites, older than nautiloids, older than anything that should have the right to be a squid. You would be an ancestor. But the problem is, you're too advanced. You have features that don't match the known timeline of cephalopod evolution. You don't have a shell. You lack siphuncle structures. You glide with fins instead of jet propulsion. You don't fit. It's as though evolution skipped ahead and made something 20 million years too early. Which, of course, is impossible. Or maybe not. Because then, a new fossil is found, Nectocotis. Nearly identical, related, another ghost swimming through the Cambrian soup with no clear lineage. You and your sibling form a new proposed group, the Nectocaridids, a family with no known ancestors and no known descendants, a biological cul-de-sac. But you keep haunting the textbooks, because every new discovery seems to make you less understandable. Your funnel, how does it work? Is it a mouth, a jet, a filter? Your tentacles, are they arms, feelers, something else entirely? Your body plan, what does it imply? A lineage? A lie? Even your name, Nectocaris, means swimming shrimp. But you are neither. You are a contradiction wrapped in cartilage. A glimpse of something possible that never happened. A creature too early, too soft, too strange. And here's the kicker. You're not completely alien. Not like the Tully monster or Typhloesus or the H and Y beasts. You resemble things we know. You tease understanding. You are a reminder that the fossil record is not a clean story. It is a palimpsest, a history overwritten, rewritten, and rubbed thin. You exist between the lines, alive in an ocean, thick with trilobites, wiwaxiids, hallucigenias. You pulse between warm thermals, searching for prey, or perhaps just surviving. You feed in ways no one understands. You die without fanfare. You fall to the seabed. And you fossilize in perfect confusion. Later, they'll try again. Someone will run a phylogenetic analysis. Others will build 3D models. Papers will be published. They'll argue whether your funnel is ventral or dorsal, whether your fins were for propulsion or stabilization, whether you had a beak, a brain, a purpose. You won't respond. You're still, silent, beautiful, and maybe that's enough. Because now, after Tully and Typhloesus, after Adakistes and Namacalathus and the shadow of the Frantzvillian disk things, you are the final riddle. Not the weirdest, just the cruelest. The almost answer. The thing that whispers, yes, this could have worked, but it didn't. You are the last stop on this slow descent into biological confusion, and the first sign that evolution doesn't play fair. You are Nectocaris, and no one, not even now, knows what they're looking at. You've drifted among the outcasts and enigmas, creatures too strange to classify, too soft to survive, too early to matter. But now we leave the lonely fossils behind. No more quiet confusion. No more gentle riddles etched in shale. Because next we surface in a different kind of ancient world. One not shaped by mystery, but by violence. The continent is unrecognizable. The skies scream. The land groans. And half of Australia, it's underwater. Welcome to the Eromanga Sea. It's not the heat that gets you. Not first. It's the silence. You expect the hum of insects, the rustle of reptiles in dry underbrush, the creak of eucalyptus in windless air. But instead, you're surrounded by water. Endless, Shallow water. Where you expected continent, you find sea. Australia, as you know it, is missing, swallowed up in the Cretaceous, when half the landmass lay drowned beneath an ancient, sluggish ocean, the Eromanga Sea. You're not supposed to be here, and the sea knows it. The water around your ankles is cold, shockingly so. A remnant of this era's strange geography. Australia's latitude far enough south that winter means near freezing temperatures in places. You wade deeper. The water rises to your knees, then to your waist, but never more. The Eromanga isn't deep, no more than a few meters in most places. But what it lacks in depth, it makes up for in hunger. The sea is wide, staggeringly so, over 200 miles at its broadest stretch, rivaling the size of the Sea of Japan. But this is no sparkling ocean. The Eromanga is muddy, iron-rich, opaque. The light does not reach far, even at noon. The water smells of rot, sediment, and something metallic. You'd call it lifeless, except it's not. It's crowded. Every square meter, it seems, is crawling with life, but not life you recognize. These creatures are older, heavier, sharper. They do not blink. They do not forgive. They belong here. You don't. You take a slow breath. Try not to flinch. Something passes by your leg. At first glance, this sea seems still, a prehistoric swamp dreamt by a tired ocean. But beneath its surface is a frenzy, a churn of predators and prey, teeth and movement, all camouflaged by the sheer brownness of the water. You can't see more than a few feet in any direction. That's the problem, because something can see you. This place wasn't always here. It wasn't always a sea. It began when the earth warmed, the poles melted, and sea levels rose, flooding Australia from the north. Rivers reversed, lowlands drowned, inland basins filled. The sea didn't arrive all at once. It crept, slowly, patiently, and when it reached Eromanga, it stopped, trapped within the continent like water in a bowl. An inland sea, still and deadly, fed by rivers and storms, but rarely drained. Over time, it grew wide and stagnant, mixing salt and fresh and everything in between. The warmth of the Cretaceous kept it just alive enough, and something in its chemical mix, a cocktail of iron, organic debris, and cold, made it perfect for preservation. Fossils form here like memories, perfect, crisp, horrifying memories. You take a few careful steps deeper, your feet slipping through fine silt. You stumble, regain balance. Something large stirs in the distance, a ripple, then stillness again. You're being watched. The sun is bright overhead, but the sky feels high, thin, distant. The light reflects off the water in glints, but the glare only blinds you further. You peer into the murk and see nothing, but they are there, just beneath your feet, just beyond your reach. Chronosaurus. You don't know its name yet, but your body does. Every nerve in your spine tightens. Every hair along your neck tries to lift. The instinct is ancient, older than speech, older than fire. It whispers, "Leave, now." You don't. You freeze, because something else moves, not far off, just under the surface. It's massive. You feel it more than see it. A subtle shift in the water's density. A silence within the silence. You can almost hear it breathing, if it breathes at all. And suddenly, the myth of a peaceful inland sea crumbles. This is not a calm refuge. It is a cauldron. A rotting bowl of blood-warm soup stirred by fins and skulls and teeth that should not exist. Even the land nearby is wrong. The shore is lined with stunted forest, marshes fed by the sea's reach. The air buzzes with pterosaurs. Trees lean like they're tired. The ground is soft. You might think of climbing to safety, but there is no safety, not here. Because everything that lives near the Eromanga Sea is either a predator, a survivor, or food. You glance back to the water. Something distant splashes. Not big, not yet. Just movement. But it's enough. You wade backward, slow, careful, trying not to make a sound. Then the current shifts again, this time toward you. You feel it before you see it. The suction of something huge displacing water. You don't wait to see what it is. You run. The mud grips your feet like claws. The water tries to hold you back, but you scramble, splash, stagger onto the shore, panting, soaked, cold. You made it. Barely. You look back. The surface is still. But you know. Something knows you were here. You've entered the kingdom, but it has a king. And he's coming. With flippers longer than your body. And a skull that could crush a truck. Welcome to the reign of the Kronosaurus. You don't know how long you've been running. The shoreline is a blur. Salt stings your eyes. Your legs ache. But the memory of that pressure in the water, that thing, it keeps pushing you forward. You collapse behind a half-submerged log. Panting, mud-caked, listening. Nothing. The Eromanga Sea lies flat behind you, blank and endless. But you know better than to trust the stillness. Something is beneath that mirror. Something vast, patient, starving. Kronosaurus. You've heard of monsters before, but they were metaphors, fairy tales, oversized lizards with inflated reputations. This is different. This is real. This is what monsters were before we named them. You inch back toward the shore, compelled more by terror than bravery. If you're going to survive this, you have to understand what's hunting you. The surface stirs again, barely. A shadow glides just under the rippling skin of the sea. And then it breaches. The head alone is a punishment. A battering ram of bone and muscle, longer than a grown man, lined with teeth like harpoons. The skull is wide, wider than a tyrannosaur's, but it lacks the awkward bulk. This predator is streamlined, engineered for slaughter. Each tooth curves backward, wicked and serrated. Some are grooved, all are thick at the base, designed not to slice, but to puncture, to drive deep, to hold. One bite, that's all it takes. You watch as the beast coils mid-breach, water cascading off its flanks. Its eyes are cold, reptilian, reflective. Then it vanishes, sliding back into the murk without a sound. A Kronosaurus in full adult form reaches lengths of 36 feet, maybe more. Two specimens hint at sizes closer to 43. That's the length of a grey whale, but denser, heavier. 15 tons of pure, primeval efficiency. Its body is built like a torpedo, short neck, immense chest, long, flippered limbs. Each flipper is taller than an NBA player, and it uses them in a perfect, synchronous ballet, slicing through water that would resist lesser things. There are no survivors when it's hungry, only specimens. You peer out over the water and see nothing now, but you know better. Kronosaurus is always there, somewhere, gliding just below, waiting for the twitch, the ripple, the silhouette. It hunts more than fish. It eats anything. You've seen the evidence. turtles with bite marks the size of melons, plesiosaurs, full-grown ones, found partially digested, squid, other marine reptiles, sharks, even fragments of dinosaurs. One was found in its belly. You wonder, grimly, if the shoreline giants wander too close sometimes, if they stumble while drinking, if they misjudge the tide. Kronosaurus does not judge. It just opens its mouth. The skull closes with a bite force of over 27, 0 newtons, 18 times a tiger. Enough to crack bone like wet bark, enough to cleave a limb from your body without slowing down. And it needs to eat, desperately, always. Its bones tell the story. Rapid growth, avian metabolism, cold-tolerant tissues, like a bird crossed with a tank, fast-moving, constantly burning, constantly consuming. You're not dealing with a sluggish reptile. You're dealing with something closer to a dragon, one that never breathes fire because it doesn't need to. Its hunger alone is flame enough. But there's a cost to all this power. The Kronosaurus is efficient, yes, but also cursed by its own intensity. Juveniles die often, starve, get eaten by each other. You saw one, a specimen found with its skull crushed and body missing. Cannibalism. It eats its own when it must, when it can. You stay frozen on the shoreline, afraid to breathe too loudly. The shallows have their own ghosts. A splash. Something surfaces. You don't move. But it's not Kronosaurus. Not this time. Just a turtle. Massive. Slow. Ancient. You feel bad for it. You want to warn it. But it's already too late. The surface explodes. A shape rises from the deep. A blur of muscle and flipper and gaping mouth. It crashes into the turtle with bone-shattering force. There's no time for a scream, no time for anything. The sea swallows both, leaves only blood behind. You watch as it fades, crimson swirling in the iron-rich water like ink. Then, nothing. Stillness again. The Kronosaurus doesn't celebrate. It doesn't gloat. It just eats, then glides away, like a bad thought drifting downstream. You sit back, stunned, shaking. You feel smaller now, irrelevant. Because here, you are. In this ocean, you are nothing but an edible distraction. And it's not just the Kronosaurus you have to fear. Others swim here. Quieter, faster, colder. The sharks are coming. You tell yourself the worst is over, that if you stay near the shallows, you'll be safe. You believe this for exactly 6 seconds. Then the water beneath your feet moves. Not violently, not with a splash, but with pressure, direction. Something large, something many. Because you've escaped one monster, only to swim into an ecosystem of them. The Eromanga Sea is ruled not by one king, but by many, with knives for teeth and patience in their blood. Sharks. Not the sleek, sunlit ones you picture in modern oceans. These are bigger, older, stranger. Some look like torpedoes with teeth. Others look like evolutionary accidents. And in this place, they have returned to the throne. Lamniforms. Mackerel sharks, the fish of prey. In most Cretaceous waters, sharks are still climbing the ladder. But here, in this stagnant inland cauldron, they thrive. It's the murk that gives them power, the dark, the cold. Their senses are perfectly tuned to it, motion, blood, vibration, voltage. They know you're here before you even step in. And they're not shy. You catch a glint of movement. A fin? Maybe, maybe not. Then you see a shape dart just beneath a sandbar, Long, narrow, fast. Cretoxorhina-like. Not the exact species. Maybe a cousin. Maybe worse. This one's bigger than any shark you've seen. 30 feet long at least. 6 tons of muscle and edge. Its teeth? Not pointed. Not friendly. They're serrated. Jagged. Designed to shear, not pierce. They don't just bite. They take chunks. It's no wonder they called its American cousin the Ginsu shark. And this one might be even worse. Its jaws can open wide enough to swallow your torso in a single lunge, and it can strike at over 40 miles per hour. That's not just fast, that's unavoidable. You remember the Kronosaurus you saw earlier, the unstoppable Leviathan with a skull like a wrecking ball. It had bite marks. Shark bite marks. This predator doesn't fear kings. It nips them, harasses the young, haunts the shallows. You take a careful step backward. The water barely covers your knees, but still you feel watched. You are watched. Juvenile Kronosaurus fossils have been found with these bite patterns. Semicircular gouges in the mandible, not enough to kill, but more than enough to maim. These sharks didn't just feed on fish, they bullied the monsters. And it worked. The sea is full of bones that tell the story. Giant fish with clean-edged chunks missing. Other sharks torn in half. Even ancient plesiosaurs, once smug in their serpentine grace, fall prey to this violence. The Ginsu mouth moves again, this time closer, but it doesn't charge. It doesn't need to. It knows you're slow. It's seen this dance before. You freeze. Bubbles rise. The water around your feet tingles. It's tasting the current. But then it peels away. Something else caught its attention. Bigger, bloodier, luckier than you for now. You exhale, slowly. But the sharks are never gone. Not here. All around the basin, they dominate. Their success isn't normal. Something about this place, its chemistry, its layout, its murk, gives them the edge. Like they've been handed a cheat code and told to enjoy themselves. And they do. This isn't just a feeding ground, it's a nursery, a fortress, a kingdom. You drift along a rock shelf, hoping for a shallower escape. You pass through schools of fish, big ones, small ones, all twitchy. They move fast because they must. Predation isn't an event here. It's a constant, like the tide, like the pressure, like your heartbeat. The current shifts again. Your ears pop. A distant thud echoes beneath you. Feeding frenzy. You don't investigate. You don't need to. The shark comes back. Not the big one from earlier, another, sleeker, shorter. Still larger than anything modern. It darts, changes direction, scans, assesses, then darts off again. This one has no interest in you. Yet, others are less polite. You recall the fossil records, an abundance of shark teeth found scattered across the Eromanga basin. Not neatly arranged, not fossilized in place. Just left behind, like trash after a violent meal. They shed teeth like confetti. Each one tells a story. Each one screams, something died here. You crouch behind a jut of stone, barely submerged. The water stills. But even now, you sense movement beneath, a presence. Because here, in the shallows, everything has teeth. And they all know your heartbeat. You are not alone. You never were. And the deeper you go, the more eyes follow. Now, something else waits in the colder dark. Not a shark. Not a pliosaur. Something sleeker. Smarter. Faster. You're heading south now. Into deeper water. where the ichthyosaurs dive. You've followed the warmth long enough. Now it abandons you. The southern Eromanga Sea is colder, stiller. The surface no longer teems. It looms. The sharks have thinned, the pliosaurs withdrawn, but don't be comforted. They've simply made way for something else. You glide into deeper water. Not much deeper. This is still an inland sea, not an abyss. But the mood has changed. The light filters down in dull greens. The silt thickens. Visibility vanishes past a few arm lengths. And there, in the gloom, something moves. Fast, silent, smooth. You don't hear it. You feel it. Pressure. Wake. Then absence. You've entered the hunting lanes of the ichthyosaurs. You expect fish, maybe sharks, but what glides past you is neither. It has the shape of a dolphin, but none of the warmth, none of the friendliness. This is evolution's original missile. A reptile that swims like a mammal, with the dead eyes of a fish. It is Platypterygius, the most common ichthyosaur of the Eromanga Sea, and one of the last. You stay still. It circles, not because it's afraid, because it's curious. Its eyes are huge, adapted for darkness, pressure, and speed. You're not prey, not really, but you're not safe either. Its mouth is long and filled with backward curved teeth, designed for squid or soft-bodied fish. Or birds, apparently. One was found with a dinosaur in its gut. A bird, swallowed whole. You feel your stomach tighten. This one, this Platypterygius, is large. 7 meters long, nearly 23 feet, longer than your car, faster than your fear. Its body is compact, skin smooth, tail like a crescent. The ratio between length and depth, perfect, streamlined, optimized. It swims not by wriggling, but by flicking, controlled, rapid tail strokes, minimizing drag. You drift backward, slowly. Don't make noise. Don't. Too late. Another flashes past you, then another. You're in the middle of a pod now, maybe 4, maybe 5, maybe more. You don't know. You can't know. They're too fast. They speak in motion, in sudden darts and turns. They slice past one another without contact, communicating through pressure waves and instinct. You are not one of them, but for now, they allow you here. Until they don't. You watch one dive sharply downward. Another follows, then 2 more. Something's happening below. You follow. Darkness thickens. The silt swirls. You pass through patches of cold so dense it feels like diving through ghosts. And then you see it. A swarm. Squid. Not like modern ones. Shorter arms. Harder shells. Belemnites. Swimming backward, forming dense clusters, like underwater hailstorms with nervous systems. The ichthyosaurs crash through them. It's not hunting, it's mowing. They don't snap tentacles or pick and choose. They open wide, charge forward, swallow entire clouds, dozens at a time. The prey doesn't even scatter fast enough. The carnage is elegant. You watch one Platypterygius erupt upward from the frenzy, stomach visibly bulging. That explains the fossil, a specimen with a belly packed full of cephalopods, hundreds. Digestion paused mid-meal, fossilized in fullness. They are living torpedoes, fueled by protein and need. You ascend slightly, trying to stay unnoticed. Then you see the shadow, bigger than an ichthyosaur, broader, slower, Chronosaurus. You freeze. It's watching, not attacking, not yet. It knows the ichthyosaurs are fast, harder prey, not worth a failed chase. But it waits. And the ichthyosaurs, they know it's there, but they don't flee. They stay close to the bottom, flash past in organized bursts, dive deeper, move faster, as if racing against time itself, because they are the last of their kind. Ichthyosaurs ruled once. In the Triassic, in the Jurassic, they were gods of the open sea. But by the Cretaceous, their reign has faltered. Climate, competition, change, extinction has crept in. And yet, in the Eromanga Sea, they've mounted one final stand. Here, in this cold inland pool, they hold on, growing large again, hunting deep again, moving fast again. But you can feel it in the water. It won't last. Their speed, once an edge, now feels like desperation. Their precision, once dominance, now feels like habit. They are brilliant swimmers, but the sea is shrinking, the prey thinning, the water warming again. They are survivors, but not forever. You swim upward, lungs tight, heart louder than it should be. The Platypterygius pass you again, one trailing a squid's limp remains from its jaws. It doesn't notice you. But something else does. A larger shadow, not Kronosaurus, not ichthyosaur. Something longer, narrower, and sharper. The fish here are not friendly. And the ones with swords, they don't stab, they slice. You surface with aching lungs and a bone-deep chill. The ichthyosaurs are gone now, vanished into the murk, the way all elegant things eventually do. You expect silence, stillness, maybe safety. You get none. Instead, the water begins to vibrate. A low pulse, a ripple with intention. You turn slowly, and there, rising from the midwater gloom, like a torpedo forged by anxiety, is a fish. Not just any fish. Not the kind that glubs around with harmless eyes and flappy fins. This one slices. This one skewers. This is Protosphyriana, not a true swordfish, but worse. Faster, meaner, smarter, somehow. It doesn't have a long nose like modern swordfish. It doesn't need one. Its face is a weapon. And its mouth? Filled with blades. Flat, serrated teeth. Dozens of them. Each shaped like a machete. Each longer than a raptor's claw. Paleontologists mistook them for dinosaur teeth when they first found them. You can understand why. You hover, breath caught in your chest. Then it moves. Not with a twitch, not with a wiggle. With force, it lunges, full body, through a school of mid-sized fish. You don't see the strike, only the aftermath. A blur, a cut, a separation. The fish is not bitten, it is halved. Not chewed, sliced. The Protosphyraena doesn't even slow down. It circles, comes back, finishes what it started. You want to believe it's an isolated freak, a one-off. But it's not alone. There are others, Kuya, for instance. Ugly, thick-bodied, with a mouth big enough to swallow prey its own size. Its teeth aren't elegant. They're brutal, functional, designed to gulp. It cruises just beneath you, mouth slightly ajar. It does not lunge. It looms. This is the Eromanga surface, where the freaks float, where teeth meet speed, where design meets madness. And somehow, these aren't even the apex predators. They're the middlemen. You see a plesiosaur pass by. Small, this one, only a few meters long, but its neck is comically extended, like someone started a crocodile and got distracted. Its flippers churn the water gracefully. Its eyes are curious. You almost feel safe. Almost. But then you notice the way it glances upward, sideways, the tension in its movement. It's being hunted. And sure enough, a shadow follows. Big, heavy, silent. It could be a shark. Could be a pliosaur. Could be a kronosaurus. The plesiosaur vanishes into the brackish distance. You're left with the protosphyraena, still circling, still twitching. It seems to know it's not the largest, not the strongest. So it compensates, with speed. 55 miles per hour, at least. A living dart. It doesn't stab like a swordfish, it collides. The teeth take over from there. You understand now why paleontologists originally thought they'd found a theropod when they uncovered its jaw. The scale doesn't match the shape, which, in Eromanga, is not a mistake. It's a theme. Everything here is oversized, underexplained, and somehow faster than it should be. Even the fish, even the prey. You scan the horizon, looking for land. There it is, a soft outline. Maybe a few kilometers away, you can make it. If you don't get caught, you swim. Not hard, not fast, just steady. And then you see it. A massive form below. Not a kronosaurus, not a shark, not a swordfish. Something different, something old. A plesiosaur, yes, but larger, heavier, more confident. It doesn't chase you. It doesn't even seem to care. It drifts upward, long neck weaving, dozens of tiny interlocking teeth, shining as its mouth opens briefly and closes again. It passes within arm's reach. You feel the wake, the displacement. Then it's gone. Just another mid-tier predator in a sea where everything eats everything. And somehow, the land still feels far. But you're getting closer. You can see the trees now, and something circling above them, big, wide-winged, casting shadows. You think, finally, dry ground. You're wrong, because Eramanga's final gift waits at the shoreline. And it flies. You make it. You crawl from the Eromanga Sea like a shipwrecked dream, skin stinging, breath ragged, senses blown wide from too much water, too much movement, too many teeth. The land feels firm, familiar. You want to kiss it. Then you look up, and you see the wings. One shadow passes over you, then another. A third glides farther off, banking effortlessly in the coastal wind. These aren't birds, they aren't insects. They are pterosaurs, living gliders the size of minivans, prowling the shoreline like seagulls from hell. Welcome to dry land. It's somehow worse. The air is hot and full of salt and pollen. The trees are thick with fern and low, wet leaves. The soil squelches underfoot, riddled with roots and half-rotted logs. Every sound feels like it might be your last. Every step sinks just slightly too much. You are being watched, again, from above. The largest shape banks back toward you. It's massive. Thapungaka, the Sky King. Its wings stretch nearly 30 feet across. Its mouth, needle-toothed and narrow, opens briefly as it glides, just enough for the sunlight to catch the sheen of enamel. It doesn't need to roar. It doesn't need to chase. It's not hunting you. Not yet. But it's interested. It smells the sea on you. It has teeth. And time. You duck beneath a half-dead tree. The shadow passes. You breathe. But the relief is temporary, because above you, the air fills with motion, more pterosaurs, smaller ones. 4 species known from this region, all cousins of the great skyfishers, and all among the last of their kind to have teeth. Lucky you. They aren't just gliders, they're swoopers, divers, opportunists. And when you've been in the sea, floundering and bleeding and moving like prey, you are an opportunity. You move inland, not far, just away from the coast, toward what looks like a riverbank. Maybe you'll find a safer path. Maybe you'll find crunch. You freeze. That wasn't your foot. It was jaws, closing, nearby. You pivot. The river is there, still, but at its edge, lying half submerged in the mud, are eyes. Glassy, reptilian, calculating. The crocodilians have returned. Not the giant ones, thank whatever gods ruled the Mesozoic. These are smaller, Isisfordia and Confractosuchus. But small is a relative term. One's the size of a Komodo dragon. The other, longer, heavier. Both are fast. And, more importantly, not afraid. They've adapted to this world beautifully. Saltwater, freshwater, brackish marshes, they don't care. They eat what moves, and sometimes what doesn't. One turns its head slightly, the other shifts its legs under the water. You back away, breath caught again, and that's when you feel the ground shake. Just slightly, a pulse, then another. Not volcanic, not storm, something heavier. Something walking. You turn, and there, rising between the trees, are legs. Massive. Columnar. Ridged with muscle and dusted in moss. Legs thicker than oil drums. Each step sends tremors through your ribcage. The neck follows, arching, swaying, blotting out the canopy as it lifts. A sauropod. Not just any, these are titanosaurs, the largest animals to ever walk Australia. Ostrototan, maybe, or Diamantinosaurus, or something worse. They're 100 feet long, 70 tons. Their tails whip through the air with the weight of wrecking balls. They don't hunt you, but they don't see you either. If they step on you, you'll die. If they panic, stampede, trip, you'll die. And worst of all, they like the coast. They use the beaches as walking paths. They cross rivers. They graze the fern-thick floodplains. Fossils show them dying near the sea, close enough to drift out with the tide, their bones feeding the marine ecosystem in death, just as they carved it in life. They're not alone. You duck behind a fallen log, watch another herd approach from the east. Smaller herbivores this time, Muttaburrasaurus, kakaru, ornithopods with big eyes and stronger jaws than you'd expect. They seem skittish. You wonder why. Then you hear it. Low, breathy, not a roar, not a growl, more like friction. Something large is moving between the trees. You run. You know what this is. Australovenator. 6 meters long, 20 feet of claws, speed and nightmare. A megaraptorid, the Freddy Krueger of Australian theropods. Huge, sickle-shaped claws, long arms and teeth. Not just sharp, not just recurved, optimized. Its skeleton is lighter than it looks, bird-like in its agility. It doesn't lumber, it charges. You trip, you scramble, you duck into a low ravine, eyes darting, limbs burning. You don't see it, but you know it saw you, because in this place, land, sea or sky, there is nowhere left to hide. Even the earth is against you. Floods, eruptions, ash clouds, the coast lifts, the sea dies. This world is collapsing, tectonic and volcanic forces tearing the Eromanga Basin apart day by day. You crouch beneath a dead fern, breath hitching, legs trembling, and then silence. The end has already begun. The Eromanga Sea is drying. The predators will dwindle. The coastlines will shrink. The forests will die. But right now, right here, it is still alive. And you've survived. But you wouldn't survive here twice. You thought you'd seen the worst of it. The kronosaurs, the Ginsu sharks, the fish with swords and the sky with fangs. You thought Australia's ancient seas were the peak of prehistoric madness. But then the tide shifts, the dream ends, you surface in a different world. And it is somehow louder, wider, hungrier. The sea hasn't left, it's just changed its name. Welcome to Hell's Aquarium. You open your eyes underwater. It doesn't feel like drowning. Not yet. The pressure isn't crushing, the cold isn't biting. In fact, the water here is warm, like a sunlit bath poured across half a continent. You drift upward, not quite swimming, just floating through sun-dappled silt and swaying plumes of ancient algae. The light is golden and dense, scattered by suspended particles that turn the sea into liquid smoke. Every flick of your hand kicks up clouds. Every breath, if you could take one, would taste like iron and salt and dust from long-dead volcanoes. This is not an ocean. It's something stranger. You have arrived in the Western Interior Seaway, a shallow inland sea that stretches across the belly of ancient North America. From the Arctic Ocean in the north to the Gulf of Mexico in the south, it slices the continent in two. East is gone, west is gone, there is only this. It is 100 million years ago. You should not be here, but you are. The first thing you notice is how flat it all is. Unlike the deep, crushing trenches of modern oceans, this place is thin, more lake than abyss. At its deepest, it barely scrapes 500 feet, shallower than 6 lakes you could name today. But at its widest, over 0 miles. This is an ocean stretched like a skin across the land, a flooded continent, a warm, prehistoric plate of soup. And soup is the right word. Because this water is thick with life, you kick gently and clouds of plankton bloom around you, fed by nutrient-rich runoff from 2 proto-continents, Laramidia and Appalachia, the accidental islands born from this split. From their shores pour rivers and sediment and strange new DNA, fueling a biological explosion. You pass over a shelf of soft coral, not the kind you know, but something wilder, cruder. This is the Cretaceous after all. Life is still experimenting. Shapes flicker beneath you, slow, swimming fish with armour, plated heads, translucent invertebrates pulsing like jelly engines, and stranger things that don't quite fit any category. Something brushes your leg. You don't look down. The water grows warmer in patches, then colder. Currents from the south and north meet here, stirring the soup. You float across what used to be Wyoming, though you wouldn't know it. All you see is mud, algae, and movement. And something else. A shadow, large, slow, uncertain. You squint. It flickers through the silt. Not close, not yet, but large enough to disrupt the light, large enough to make you feel small. You're beginning to understand why they called this place Hell's Aquarium, because every direction you turn, something waits. Not necessarily to eat you, but certainly to notice you. There are no safe spaces here. Even the shallow waters you cling to are part of the food web. Sunlight fuels the algae. Algae feeds the plankton. Plankton feeds the fish. Fish feed the reptiles. And the reptiles They feed on anything. You spot the first mosasaur from a distance. Not close, just enough to recognize the silhouette. Long body, thick tail, rows of teeth. It's not hunting, not yet. Just gliding, mouth half open, as if dreaming of prey it hasn't met yet. You dive downward, instinctively trying to disappear. Below, the coral gives way to a low trench filled with sea lilies and strange coiled shells, ammonites, some the size of manhole covers. Their tentacles twitch as you pass, sensing you, dismissing you. You are not food, yet. Something flutters past your ear. Something thin, boneless, a cephalopod perhaps. It moves like a thought, fast, then gone. You push up again, breaking into open water. And this time, you're not alone. There are others here. Swimming giants. Massive fish with bony jaws and dead eyes. Sharks with bodies like torpedoes. Some longer than a truck. Their mouths are always open. Not from hunger, just readiness. And it's not just animals. You notice the geography shifting below you. Sandbars that stretch for miles, wetlands with standing, brackish pools. Shallow lagoons teeming with baby things, hatchling turtles, juvenile plesiosaurs, and nests of strange finned horrors. This sea is not one thing, it is many. A patchwork of habitats stitched together by water and heat and fate. Above, a shadow passes. You look up. Wings. Pteranodons. Dozens of them, swooping low over the water, some diving to snatch fish with sharp beaks. They scream, but it's a dry scream, a sound that carries oddly through the humidity. You watch one tilt and turn, then vanish into the haze. And then you realize something important. You haven't seen land for hours. The seaway is not just water. It's space. It's isolation. It cuts you off from everything else. There is no forest to hide in, no mountain to climb. Just water, filled with mouths, stretching in every direction. You feel a tug at your foot. You look down. Nothing. But the current has changed. The light dims. The silt thickens. Something large is approaching. You don't move. You just float, waiting, listening. The warmth around you suddenly feels targeted, like breath. Something exhales nearby. A silent, heavy push of displaced water. And that's when you know the mosasaurs have found you. You don't move, because you don't need to. The water around you is already moving, with purpose. Not from waves, not from wind, but from mass. Enormous, ancient, muscular mass sliding through the western interior seaway, like it owns every molecule of it. Because it does. The shadow below you thickens, sharpens, then turns. And that's when you see the jaws. Not open, not lunging, just present, hanging beneath a long reptilian skull longer than your arm span, lined with banana-shaped teeth, thick enough to be used as table legs. This is no fish. This is mosasaurs. You expected sleek, maybe sinuous. What you didn't expect was bulk. The mosasaur doesn't swim. It undulates, a locomotive reptilian torpedo wrapped in power, paddling with its flippers and flicking its long tail like a submarine rudder. The muscles flex visibly under its scaly hide. You can feel the energy, even from a distance. This one is big, maybe 30 feet, maybe more. But it's not alone. You spot another behind it, then two more, all different sizes. Some smaller, twitchier, with more curious eyes. Clidastes, perhaps. The smaller cousins. Agile, eager, practicing the kill, but the largest, drifting just below the surface with the grace of a stalking warship. That must be Tylosaurus. You've heard of Mosasaurus hoffmanni, the bigger star, the so-called celebrity of the sea, but here, Tylosaurus is the one you fear, because it's here. Now, and it's not swimming past. It's circling. Your lungs ache, even though you don't need air. Your brain doesn't know the difference. It just knows. You are prey in a room with mouths. You shift slightly. Bad move. The closest one, juvenile, maybe 20 feet, perks up. Mouth opens slightly. Just a test, just to see if you move again. You don't. But it comes closer anyway. The teeth are not like shark teeth. These are crushing teeth, thick-rooted, slightly curved, good for gripping slippery things like turtles, fish, smaller reptiles, or legs. You glance to the left, and that's when you see it. A carcass, suspended in the water like a ghost, half a turtle, spinning slowly. Bits of algae cling to its flipper stump. Its head is gone. Neck vertebrae exposed like snapped cords. You follow the trail of bubbles and blood downward. And there, further below, is the real monster. Mosasaurus. The big one. You don't even see all of it. Just the snout, the throat, a flash of tail fin bigger than a canoe, and eyes. Cold and forward-facing, which is bad. That means focus. That means a predator who tracks. You can barely take it in. Every part of its body is built for one thing: dominance. The skull alone could crush a small car. Its bite force? You don't want to know. Its teeth don't cut, they divide. Through flesh, through bone, through entire timelines. You hover completely still, just inches above the coral shelf. You are not prey. You are not prey. You are too late. The Tylosaurus lunges. Not at you. Thank something. It's after one of the fish you hadn't noticed. Something big, bony, slow. It opens wide. Too wide. You see the double-hinged jaw unhinge like a trapdoor, the palate rising to accommodate the kill. The prey tries to dart sideways, but the tail slams into it before the teeth arrive. Like a blunt trauma sandwich. Then it's over. One gulp. Gone. The mosasaur doesn't even slow down. Just turns, body rippling with power, and vanishes into the bloom of blood and bubbles. You breathe again. Barely. You back away, slowly kicking through the water. But the reef is crowded. Shapes are everywhere now. Some long and thin, others blunt-nosed and twitchy. You're not just in predator territory. You're in apex territory. There's a difference. Because here, nothing eats the kings. And the kings eat everything. You see a massive shark sweep in from the west. Not one of today's streamlined great whites. This one is bulkier, with a broader head and serrated teeth like steak knives. Its body moves in brutal, punctuated flexes. Each turn is a threat. A Cretoxyrhino. The Ginsu shark. You hear about them in textbooks. Fierce. Efficient. Fast. You don't hear that they smile. Not really. But their mouths hang open in a way that feels like amusement. This one is scarred. Deep gouges down its flank. Mosasaur teeth, perhaps. A story written in blood. It doesn't slow as it moves past you. Just pulses forward into deeper water. You don't want to follow. You surface. Just for a moment. Sky, light, oxygen. And then, impact. A splash behind you. You don't look. You dive. Because here, in the western interior seaway, the sky has teeth too. The surface lies to you. It promises peace, air, escape. But, As you duck back under, lungs taut, blood loud in your ears, you remember the truth. In the Western Interior Seaway, what you don't see is what eats you. You settle into a shallow trench, veiled by drifting kelp-like algae. The light filters through in green stripes. You try not to move. The giants, for now, have passed. But the sea is not quiet. It hisses, it chatters. It pulses with life in the margins. Creatures without names. Creatures that do not roar or chase or crush, but kill just the same. Something brushes your ankle. You freeze. It's soft. Gentle. Almost silky. You glance down, slowly. Tentacles. Not large, not thick, but numerous and coiled. You see the rest of it a moment later. Pale, mottled, nearly translucent. Drifting just above the sediment, like a discarded thought, a cephalopod. Not a squid. Not really. This is Tusotuethis, a creature somewhere between modern squid and ancient nightmare. No shell, no bones. Just muscle, memory, and beak. It doesn't flee. It hovers, watching, considering. You try to back away. Slowly. Don't stir the sand. Too late. It flares. Ink jets from its siphon. The water goes dark. The tentacles twitch in a burst of confusion. You can't see. You can't see. But you can feel. Another brush. Your side. Then your arm. Then gone. When the cloud clears, it has vanished. No bubbles. No ripple. No trace. You drift, pulse hammering. Around you, life continues as if nothing happened. But now, your brain is awake to the smaller fears. You see them everywhere. Tiny jellyfish the size of a thumbprint, but trailing barbed filaments like glass wires. Fish that flash bright colours not to attract, but to warn. Something down below is pulsating, rhythmically. At first, you think it's breathing. Then you realise it's a feeding sac, filled with water, digesting something. Maybe something like you. The reef walls are lined with invertebrate colonies, some vaguely coral-like, others more fungal, like underwater tumours. They twitch as you pass, react to your presence. One sprays a puff of scent into the current. Chemical warfare. Nature's original message board. You pass a patch of strange shells, ammonites mostly, some broken, some intact. One turns, its tentacles unfurling like a flower. It watches you with a single, unblinking eye, the size of a coin. You move on. The coral ahead arches into a canopy, low, tunnel-like. You consider going around, but the open water behind you feels worse. You duck into the tunnel. It's quiet. Too quiet. No fish. No current. And that's when you notice the smell. It shouldn't exist here, in water, but it does. Rot, decay, copper. The walls of the coral tunnel are stained darker here, burnt brown, blotched with algae. You brush one by accident. Your skin burns for a moment. Then the eyes open. 3 of them, buried in the sand at your feet. Then 6 more. These aren't mosasaurs. These aren't sharks. These are ambush predators. And one of them is big. You recognize it a split second before it launches, Siphactinus. A fish. A horrible fish. Not sleek, not smooth. Chunky, with jaws too large for its body. A mouth full of unreasonably long, dagger-shaped teeth. Its body is built not for speed, but for suddenness. It doesn't chase. It erupts. You bolt. It follows. You kick through the trench, twisting between pillars of sponge and coral. It crashes behind you, snapping at your legs, missing by inches. You dive upward through a curtain of fish, too small to be prey, just witnesses. The Siphactinus loses interest. It sinks back down, disappears like it was never there. You're panting. Even here, in your time traveller's body, the stress lingers. Because that wasn't a fluke. That wasn't even the worst. There are dozens of them out there. Some bigger, some faster, some stranger. You rise again, break the surface. And this time, you don't just see pterosaurs. You see the skydive. A pteranodon, 20 feet across, folds its wings mid-glide and plummets toward the sea. Its beak slices in, clean and silent. It emerges seconds later with a struggling fish skewered lengthwise through its jaws. You stare. It turns. Looks down at you. You dive again. But not to escape. To hide. Because you know now, in this sea, the monsters come from below. But the killers, they fall from above. You swim until your arms ache, until the shadows thin and the water clears, until the weight of all the fanged things behind you feels like a memory half swallowed by the tide. Then you surface again. This time, not in panic, in wonder. The western interior seaway stretches around you like a shallow, sunlit dream. Sky and water blur at the edges. The air is thick and buzzing, filled with the sounds of wings and the distant cries of things that do not breathe water. You float on your back and look up. Above you, pteranodons wheel in vast, lazy spirals. Their wings catch thermal drafts rolling off the warm water, lifting them higher without effort. They seem peaceful at a glance, almost majestic, until they fold. One dives, a sharp angle, a blur of membrane and beak. It pierces the surface like a thrown spear and erupts seconds later with a writhing fish, water dripping from its throat pouch. Graceful, efficient, ruthless. You're no longer surprised. Because everything here, whether it swims or flies, feeds constantly. This seaway is a factory line of mouths, above, below, even at the edge where the two worlds meet. You paddle toward what passes for land, barely a sandy margin, a sloping delta lined with mangroves and ferns. It looks calm, but you know better. The shoreline breathes, and it has teeth. At first, you think the shapes lounging in the mud are logs. Then the logs blink. Crocodilians. Not small ones, not sluggish. These are Dinosuchus, the pterocrocs. 8 tons of armour and appetite. Their backs are ridged with osteoderms like plated roads. Their jaws? Weapons of mass obliteration. Fossils show bite marks punched clean through bone. They live here, but they don't stay here. These aren't purely aquatic, nor are they strictly land-based. They roam the coasts, wade through brackish shallows, lurk in river mouths, with eyes like floating coins. They are everywhere the land meets water, and sometimes further. You creep back into the shallows, unnerved by the silence, the way the birds quiet when the crocs lift their heads. The mangroves shake, but nothing steps out, not yet. You hear something call, a trill, a cry, not bird, not lizard. It echoes across the water and is answered by another, then another. You look up again and see new wings, wider, slower, not pteranodons, something bigger. These are nyctosaurids, cousins to the slender fish snatchers you saw earlier, but with toothless beaks and massive crests like sails mounted to their skulls. They glide with eerie silence, their wing beats rare, each one coasting for minutes at a time. They don't dive as often, but when they do, it's like a building fell sideways into the sea. You can only imagine what those beaks were for. Perhaps not fish, perhaps eggs, or carrion, or something worse. The skies here are just another hunting ground. But as you stare, something shifts inside you. The fear dulls, not because the danger's past, but because your senses are adapting. You are beginning to see the ecosystem, not just the teeth. You notice how the fish form bait balls, tight circles, moving as one, reacting to shadows above and below. You see how turtles drift near the surface when the air is calm, but vanish when the wind shifts, perhaps listening to something you can't hear. You dive again into a pocket of clear water near a submerged sandbar. Below, a sea turtle, massive, gentle, near 3 tons, drifts over a patch of seagrass. It grazes, slow and methodical, scraping with a beak that couldn't harm you if it tried. This is Archelon, the largest turtle Earth ever birthed. Its flippers move like oars, its eyes are soft, its back is carved like ancient armour. And still you see the scars. Jagged ones. Too wide for sharks, too high for coral. Mosasaur. Even this armoured peacekeeper is hunted. Everything here is, except maybe the plankton, and maybe not even them. You rise again. The shoreline is closer now. Trees bend overhead, ferns crowd the muddy banks. Insects flit across the surface, oblivious to the giant reptiles just below. And then, on a rise, movement. Something massive, quadrupedal. Its shadow stretches through the forest. It steps forward, revealing a head with a curved frill, a pair of great horns, and a beak like a war axe. Triceratops. This isn't a sea creature, not technically, but it's here because the seaway touches everything. The rich soil it left behind feeds the plants feed the giants feed the world. The seaway isn't just an ocean, it's a factory for life, and you are inside it. You stare at the Triceratops. It snorts, stomps, moves off toward the trees, then silence again. But something lingers in the corner of your vision. A shimmer, a ripple. The tide is shifting. The currents change. The water's taste grows brackish, less salty. The flow weakens. You sense something big is coming, not a predator this time. A transformation, because even in Hell's aquarium, nothing lasts forever. The water grows quieter, not empty, just different. It's as if the sea is holding its breath. You float in the shallows again, the shoreline muddy beneath you, the coral thickets behind you dimming with sediment. The sun still shines, but the clarity is gone. The currents are uncertain. The western interior seaway is changing. You don't notice it at first. The predators still swim, the fish still school, the pteranodons still dive. But something is off. The tides behave strangely. Rivers that once fed the basin now twist, dry, retreat. Coastal margins creep inward. The water warms in places it shouldn't. Sediment collects where it never used to. It's slow, glacial, by your standards. But the sea notices, and the sea responds. You drift downward toward a familiar reef, where once it teemed with colour and soft movement, now the coral has dimmed, blanketed in silt. Some of the smaller fish have vanished. Others grow pale and thin. Even the mosasaurs are quieter. You spot one, Tylosaurus, floating mid-water. Still massive, still terrifying, but its body moves with less purpose. The prey it used to gorge on has thinned. the migration routes have shifted. The water is warmer, but less fertile. It opens its mouth once, just once, then dives into deeper gloom. You follow, but only briefly, because down there, it's empty. Where once there were sharks and cephalopods, ammonites and armoured fish, now there is silence. Not extinction, not yet, just absence, as if life has moved somewhere else. You surface, look to the sky. Even the pterosaurs seem fewer. Fewer fish, fewer nests, fewer wings. You paddle toward land again, passing what was once a feeding ground. Now it's a mire, brackish, sluggish, stinking of algae and old salt. Something swims past, barely alive, as if Actinus, jaw cracked, missing an eye. It bumps into a log and doesn't react. You drift away. You're witnessing collapse in slow motion. The cause? Deceptively simple. The land beneath the sea is rising. The tectonic plates that once sank low and invited the sea in are tilting back, lifting, breaking. North America is unflooding itself. The waters don't vanish overnight, but inch by inch, mile by mile, they drain. The shallow seas evaporate. The deep spots turn to swamps. Wetlands become forests. Rivers split and meander. And with them, life changes. You watch a juvenile mosasaur beach itself, trying to follow a retreating current. It writhes, twists, then stops. You swim inland. The farther you go, the less sea you find. You start seeing things you shouldn't. Trees, dry grasses, herds of hadrosaurs picking through fern beds. The water here is thin and brown, clogged with sediment. You feel ridiculous, still paddling, chest deep in what used to be an ocean. But you're not alone. The crocs are here. Still, always. Deinosuchus lingers at the muddy edge of a vanished estuary. Its bulk lies half submerged in reeds, eyes fixed on the distant dinosaurs crossing a dried floodplain, waiting. You realise this sea didn't just die, it left something behind. It fertilised the earth. The sediment it deposited, layer by layer, year by year, has made the land rich. Vegetation blooms, insects rise in clouds, dinosaurs march in dense herds across what was once a seabed. The retreat of the water is the birth of something new. You follow the old shoreline, half walking now. Cracked shells crunch underfoot, fossilized fish glitter in the mud. Then you see it. A floodplain, veined with rivers and ghost lakes. A forested valley. A world not yet named. But one day it will be called Hell Creek. And its ruler? You hear the echo first. A low thud, then another. You step back. You look. And through the trees, like a moving cliff, comes the king. Tyrannosaurus Rex. You freeze. It does not see you. It moves with terrifying calm, head swaying, tail counterbalancing its bulk with quiet majesty. It is everything you feared and more, thick, scarred, covered in biting insects and bits of mud and old blood. Its eyes are sharp, focused, its breath heavy. It is not of the sea, but it grew from it. This is the legacy of the Western Interior Seaway. It fed the land, it shaped the climate, it gave birth to predators that do not swim. And now, it is nearly gone. You climb a low ridge, turn one last time. The sea is still visible in the distance, a shimmering line, like a vanishing memory. It will dry. It will disappear. But its bones will stay. So will its monsters. Some buried, some alive, some waiting. You sit now, not swimming, not running, just still, on the edge of the world that once was. The western interior seaway is gone, or mostly. A few inlets remain, ghost rivers, swampy basins where the old waters linger like dreams clinging to morning. But the sea? The real sea? It's memory now. The landscape before you is a patchwork of floodplains and tangled forests. The water has pulled back, revealing bones. Ancient coral now fossilized in limestone. Mollusk shells glittering in dry mud. Ripples frozen in sediment, like fingerprints left by vanished tides. You walk. Every step takes you through history. You find a vertebra the size of a football, mosasaur probably. Nearby, a shattered jawbone. Shark, most likely. The teeth are still sharp, still hungry in their silence. You find ammonite coils fused into cliff faces, their spiral symmetry locked in stone. You run your fingers across the ridges. Smooth, cold, beautiful. You try to imagine them alive, hovering, blinking, jetting backward with soft clicks and alien grace. You can't. They're too far gone. But their echoes are everywhere. The soil beneath your feet is seaway sediment, layered, nutrient-rich, and alive with plants. Trees grow tall and crowded. Ferns carpet the forest floor. The air is thick with insects, buzzing, clicking, calling. And among the foliage, life thrives. You see triceratops herds moving through the trees, not many, but enough. Their horns glint like daggers under filtered light. They grunt to each other in low, earthy tones. When they pass, you feel it in your chest. They walk where mosasaurs once swam. You keep going. Hell Creek. They'll call this place one day. Not yet, but soon. Because the land left behind by the retreating sea is not quiet. It boils with change. New predators rise. Tyrannosaurus, of course, ever present, ever patrolling. But others too, smaller, quicker hunters. Raptors with intelligent eyes, omnivores with claws. Shadows that move like smoke. You stumble across a nest, half crushed, abandoned. The eggs are fossilizing already. The moment has passed. Even before the asteroid, time here eats itself. You walk along a dried riverbed, one that once flowed from the seaway. It still smells faintly of salt. The turtles still dig in the sand. A few crocodilians lurk in the murk, watching with ancient patience. You realize something. You are no longer in a world ruled by the sea, but you are still of it. Every animal here, every tree, every gust of wind through the reeds carries its fingerprint. It defined this continent. It fed it, divided it, shaped its predators, gave rise to its monsters, then vanished. And in its absence, new monsters bloomed. You stop by a low ridge and look back the way you came. Across the basin, the empty lowlands, the grass-choked channels where sharks once prowled. You hear thunder in the distance, but it's not a storm. Footfalls, heavy, rhythmic, measured. You watch a massive shape pass between trees, dark, scaly, and sure of itself. It does not roar, it does not need to. This is Tyrannosaurus's realm now. But even the king walks on seaway bones. You sit on the ridge until the stars come out, bright, sharp, distant. The same stars that lit the waves when they still stretched across half a continent. The same stars that glinted on mosasaur eyes, that shimmered in the black depths where cephalopods danced. The same stars that watched it all vanish. And you realize this place isn't gone. It's buried. Every fossil, every scar in the stone, every glittering ammonite trapped in shale, they speak. They remember. And when you walk here, you're not just seeing the past. You're stepping into it. The Western Interior Seaway is gone. But its monsters, its stories, they still echo. And sometimes, when the wind is right, you can hear them breathing. The last sea you knew had teeth. Hell's Aquarium, they called it. A sun-washed graveyard where mosasaurs ruled and the sky was just another hunting ground. You remember the sharp salt, the glitter of ammonite shells, the pressure of deep time folding around you like water. But now you wake in silence. There is no roar, no scream, no wave, just a hush, the kind that doesn't wait for sound, because there's nothing left to interrupt. Above you, the sky is pale, hung low and wide, like a lid over the world. The sun hasn't set in weeks. It won't set for weeks more. It just hovers there, unmoving, soft, unsatisfying, never fully dark or light. This is the prehistoric Arctic, 20,000 years ago. And though the world feels frozen, it is not dead. You pull yourself upright, boots crunching in the snow-crusted moss. Around you, the landscape rolls in soft undulations. No mountains, no forests, just tundra. Wind-blown, treeless, and exposed. Yet even here, life persists. Stubbornly, silently. To your west, a ridgeline of glacial ice cuts the horizon like a buried continent. The scale is impossible. These are not modern mountains. They are frozen rivers the size of nations, hundreds of feet thick, pressing down on the bones of the earth. To your east, the lowlands stretch into a white haze. Somewhere out there, reindeer pick their way through buried lichen fields. Somewhere else, a predator watches from the scrub. The Arctic in this age is both a prison and a passage. The Bering Land Bridge, what will one day be a sea, is still open, still dry, still frozen into a corridor of mammal migration. Asia and North America are connected by permafrost and silence. And across it walks everything that can survive the cold. And it is cold. Not the sharp, bright cold of modern winters. This is a dull cold, seeping through leather and fur. A constant dragging chill that never quite bites, but never quite leaves. It's a part of your body now. Even your breath comes out quiet, flattened by the density of the air. Yet despite it all, this place lives. You notice the tracks first. Hoof prints. Wide, staggered, punch deep into the permafrost. Mammoth. Not one, many. The herd passed here recently, maybe within a day, maybe within an hour. The wind hasn't covered them yet. You follow. The ground is uneven, pockmarked by frost heave and old melt. Every now and then you see tufts of artemisia, wild wormwood, frost-tolerant, bitter-scented. It means food. It means herbivores. It means bigger things are coming. As you crest a hill, you catch your first full glimpse of the mammoth steppe. It is not what you expected. It's not an empty snowfield, not a wall of ice. It's a biome, alive. A sprawling, windy, dry grassland filled with cold-adapted grasses, shrubs, mosses, and hardy plants designed to shrug off starvation. This stretch of land, from France to Siberia to Alaska, is the single largest biome on the planet right now. And it exists to feed giants. You hear them before you see them. Low rumbles, thumps, the creak of heavy bones in motion. Then they come. Woolly mammoths, 6 of them, trudging in slow procession through the haze. Their fur is thick, matted, brown-black with frost. Their tusks curve like ivory crescents, sweeping low over the snow. They are enormous. Even from a distance, their presence presses on you. The largest could weigh 10 tons. Their shoulders rise higher than a van. Their eyes are dark, unreadable, rimmed in shaggy hair. They move together, slow, deliberate. You see the matriarch first, older, broader, her tusks worn, but still imposing. Around her, younger adults follow. At the centre, a calf, barely the height of your chest, keeps close to its mother's legs. They are not gentle. They rip at shrubs with brute force, dig up frozen sedges with their tusks. Their breath steams like fog, but they are not monsters. They are cold-made, cold-shaped. The product of a long evolutionary war fought between metabolism and temperature. Their fur has layers. Hollow hairs trap warmth. Their skin is thicker than your hand. Underneath that, a blanket of fat, sometimes 4 inches deep. And their blood? Thicker, richer, better suited to this pale, unmoving sun. You step back. They don't see you. They wouldn't care if they did. You are too small to be a threat, too alone to be a herd. You watch until they vanish into the fog again. Behind you, the wind picks up. Somewhere in that wind, you catch the smell of musk and fur and dung and pine. The scent of large animals, of life moving where no life should. You crouch beside a wind-worn stone. Your fingers graze lichen and frozen soil. You listen. The world has no birdsong, no rustling leaves, no insects buzz in your ears. Just breath, and hooves, and waiting. You are not the first to walk here, and you will not be the last. You follow the herd, not close enough to disturb them, just close enough to understand. Their trail winds through the frozen grasslands, like a path carved in ancient memory, crushed shrubs, torn clumps of sedge, scat steaming faintly in the cold. They move not with urgency, but with purpose. And you begin to realize they've done this before, thousands of times, across thousands of years. The woolly mammoth is not lost, it's not wandering, it's exactly where it should be, walking the same invisible map its ancestors laid before the ice had even reached its peak. You spot another herd in the distance, and another. The Arctic isn't empty, it's organized, full of roots and cycles and patterns that repeat themselves year after year, animal after animal. The mammoth isn't just a mammal, it's an ecosystem engineer. Every step it takes presses seeds into the earth. Every tusk scrape breaks ice crusts to expose grasses. Their dung fertilizes the steppe. Their paths shape migration trails. Their wallows create depressions that hold meltwater. Without mammoths, this place would change. It still will. But for now, the herds still move. You step aside as the trail crosses a low hill. The matriarch passes barely 50 feet from you. Her head swivels, slowly. She sees you, registers your heat, your shape, but she does not stop. Because you are not important, not yet. You study her up close. The details are astonishing. She has ears smaller than a human hand, minimized to preserve heat. A trunk thick and dexterous, with twin finger-like projections at the end. Her tail is short, almost stubby, useless for swatting flies that don't exist here, but perfect for not freezing. And her tusks. Massive. Up close, they're more tree trunk than ivory. Spiraled, stained, cracked with wear. Not just weapons, they're tools. Snowplows, shovels, social displays, instruments of survival. And these aren't even the biggest. Some males, solitary giants that wander alone, can reach tusk spans over 15 feet. They rarely travel with herds, too aggressive, too volatile. Sometimes you find them alone, dead, frozen mid-roar, locked in ancient combat. You see their bones sometimes, rising from thawed ground like misplaced statues. And it's not just mammoths. You round a bend in the ridgeline, and there, shoulder-deep in snowdrift, you spot a small group of musk oxen. Short, barrel-shaped, covered in shag that would shame any mammoth. They are perfectly still, until they're not. At the slightest movement, your boot crunching ice, they form a tight defensive ring, calves in the centre, heads lowered. You freeze. You've just triggered a million-year-old reflex. Their horns sweep outward in a line of warning. Their breath comes out in steam clouds. They don't charge. They wait. Because that's what Arctic herbivores do. They wait. For the predator. For the thaw. For the next footstep that could mean death. You back away slowly. They break formation just as slowly. The moment passes. You walk on, heart beating faster now. The Ice Age didn't just breed giants, it bred tensions. Every species here walks the knife's edge between cold and hunger. Nothing grows fast. Nothing grows much. What you eat today might not come back for months. That's why so many of these herbivores are built for storage. The steppe bison you encounter next are shaggy, blunt-faced tanks, horned and hulking, with wool thick enough to knit a village. Their humps are fat reserves. Their gait is wide and heavy. They dig with their heads, using brute force to scrape through snow to grass. You marvel at their lungs, the sheer volume they must hold to breathe this thick, frigid air. At their nostrils, built to warm every gulp before it hits their core. Every part of them is conservation. No wasted movement, no excess skin, no fat that isn't armour. Even the Saiga antelope, skittish and strange, are adapted this way. You catch a glimpse of them sprinting across the lowland flats, their bulbous noses puffing steam as they filter dust and cold from the air. Their faces are comical, but their survival is no joke. They've lasted where others didn't, thanks to speed, flexibility, and biology just weird enough to work. You crouch beneath a wind-warped shrub and feel something shift inside you. A quiet respect, not fear, not wonder, just respect. Because these aren't just animals, they are solutions. Every one of them, a response to a problem this place never stops asking. How do you live where heat runs out? How do you breathe where the air hurts? How do you raise young in a place that wants nothing to grow? You don't fight the cold. You shape yourself around it. You listen to the wind. You dig. You huddle. And above all, you move. Just like the mammoths. Just like you. You don't hear the predator before you see it. You feel it, somewhere in your nervous system, a sense of attention shifting toward you, the kind of cold that has nothing to do with temperature. You freeze. At the edge of the horizon, beyond the wind-scoured basin where the mammoths once passed, a dark silhouette emerges from the dusk-light haze, big, low, moving with unhurried confidence. At first, you think it's a bear. Then it steps forward, and you realize your mistake. It's bigger than you expected, and it's not just any bear. It's Arctodus simus, the short-faced bear, apex of the Ice Age land predators. It stands easily 5 feet at the shoulder, but when it rears, just for a moment, scenting the air, it could look into the second story of a building, legs long, almost gracile, built not for ambling, like modern grizzlies, but for covering ground. It is not fast by sprinting standards, it's fast by inevitability. It doesn't need stealth. It doesn't even need subtlety. It just walks, and everything else gets out of its way, including you. You hold your breath as it sniffs the wind, then veers off toward a river bend, leaving you alone in the cold silence once again. But the moment lingers. You were just sized up and spared, probably because you weren't worth the energy. That's how predators think out here, because in this landscape, every calorie counts. The short-faced bear likely scavenges as much as it hunts. Its jaws are built wide, its limbs long for intimidation and reach, its senses tuned for blood and carrion. It follows death like a shadow, and, in times of hunger, it makes death happen. You keep walking. The landscape dips. A creek bed twists ahead, half frozen, lined with reindeer tracks and old burrows. You crouch near a snowbank to examine fresh paw prints, massive, five-toed, heavy. But these aren't bear. These belong to a pack. Soon you hear them, low howls, barely audible over the wind. Then movement between the snow-coated trees. Dire wolves. They're not myths here. These are real, flesh and blood predators, larger than any modern grey wolf. Heavier in the chest, thicker in the jaw. Their heads are blockier, built to crush bone. And their pack dynamics? Fierce. You spot 3 at first, then 5, then 8. Moving as one, they fan across the slope like a net. Their eyes flick between each other constantly, heads low, tails horizontal, coordinated, tense, hungry. They've caught a scent. You step back and observe as they trail a herd of steppe bison downwind. The lead wolf halts, the others crouch, low and ready. A signal passes between them. Nothing vocal, just body language. A tail flick. A slight crouch, eyes narrowing. Then the burst. They explode forward, speed and mass combined, closing the gap across crusted snow, trying to single out a calf or slow adult. The bison react as one. The herd tightens. Horns face outward. Snow sprays. The predators circle once, test the perimeter. They don't find a weak link, not this time. The wolves retreat, panting. One limps slightly, a bruised leg, a failed attempt. But they'll try again. They always do. Because the Arctic doesn't allow many mistakes, but it doesn't punish persistence. You climb a nearby ridge to escape the wind. As you rise, a sudden flutter draws your eye, a streak of white darting across the snow. A snowy owl, wings wide, flight silent. Its talons snap down over a snowshoe hare you hadn't even seen. A flash of motion, a muffled thud, then silence again. Everything here hunts, even the quiet. As the owl disappears into the dusk, you peer over the ridge and freeze. Below you, half shadowed in the blue light of endless day, crouches something else. Low-slung, powerful, silent, a saber-toothed cat. Not the iconic Smilodon, that genus preferred warmer southern lands. This one is Homotherium, the scimitar cat. Less famous, arguably stranger. It's not as bulky as you imagined, more lion-shaped than bear-like, but its forelimbs are thick, its body curved like a compressed spring, and its teeth. They're shorter than Smilodons, but they curve like blades. Flat. Sharpened. This is a creature built for ambush, not endurance. It scans the tundra, eyes golden and still, scanning for anything it can rush and drop within seconds. Caribou, calves, a distracted human, maybe. You remain perfectly still. It doesn't see you. It melts into the brush. The predators in this world don't make noise. They don't need to. The silence is the weapon. You breathe again, slowly, once it's gone, and then a flutter, snow falling from the branches above you. You look up. 2 Arctic foxes, barely visible in their white winter coats, peer down at you from the ridgeline. One tilts its head, the other yawns. They are survivors. Not strong, not large, but clever, adaptive, opportunistic. You watch as they trot off, tails high, vanishing into the snowdrifts without a trace. And you understand. Out here, it's not the biggest or fastest that wins. It's the one that endures the silence and still listens for what comes next. You've gone miles without seeing another soul, but as the wind shifts and the tree line thickens, the silence begins to say otherwise. There's something different about this place. The slope ahead is sheltered, south-facing, warmer by a few degrees, ringed by gnarled spruce and half-buried stones. The snow underfoot is broken, not animal tracks, not scavenger trails. These are deliberate, parallel, worn with purpose. You're not alone. You find the fire pit first. Blackened rocks in a tight circle. Charred wood that smells faintly of smoke, even now. Scattered bone fragments nearby, some split clean down the middle, marrow scooped out with something sharp. Then you see it. A spearhead, chipped from chert, fluted along the shaft, left behind like punctuation on a sentence you're not finished reading. Humans were here, and not just passing through. You kneel beside the stones. There's no writing, but you can read it anyway. This was shelter. This was meat. This was family and firelight and a chance, however brief, to stop running. This place, Beringia, the land bridge, wasn't just a migration route. It was a home. During the last glacial maximum, while the ice sheets towered to the south and the cold deepened to the north, Beringia remained unglaciated. A cold step, yes, but dry, walkable, survivable. A lifeline between Asia and the Americas. And humans took it. They crossed it slowly, over generations, not as an invasion, but as expansion. A long, wandering answer to hunger. You imagine them here now, bundled in hide and fur, speaking languages we'll never recover, skimming rivers in hide-covered boats, hunting mammoths with tactics refined by thousands of years of memory. They weren't just surviving, they were adapting. Their clothing? Sewn from sinew and stitched with bone needles, layered with reindeer skin, feathered hoods, grass-filled moccasins. Clothing wasn't style, it was armor against death. Their shelters? Ingenious. Some were simple, snow walls and reindeer hides, lean-tos curved into the wind. Others more permanent, partially buried pit houses, insulated with sod, with smoke holes and carved entrance tunnels. And the weapons? You find another shard nearby. A thin blade, obsidian or basalt, polished smooth, razor sharp. Designed not just to kill, but to bring something home. To feed not one, but many. These weren't mindless hunters. They were pattern readers, season trackers, storytellers, engineers of warmth and sustenance. They watched the animals, learned the migrations, understood the strange, cyclical rhythms of cold, and they left signs behind, subtle, deliberate, quiet. You find a carving etched into bone, just a few lines. A mammoth, a bear, maybe a map. It's hard to tell, but it's human. That much is obvious. The Arctic doesn't preserve flesh, but it keeps meaning. You press forward. Eventually, you see the rest of the camp, low mounds in the snow, old hearth pits now filled with ice, and beyond them, the bones. Mammoth ribs arranged in an arc, not random, not natural. This was a shelter. You're looking at a mammoth bone house, an Ice Age yurt of sorts, built from tusks, ribs, and skulls, covered with hides and layered with grass. Built to endure. You walk through it, slow, reverent. You can almost hear the voices, the crackle of fire, the wind hissing outside while inside. Stories were told and meat was dried and wounds were dressed with ash and spit. These people didn't fear the Ice Age. They belonged to it. You find more tools, awl tips, flakes from stone knapping, a hammerstone polished from use, everything with a purpose, everything made to last. The Arctic did not allow luxury, but it did allow ingenuity. And perhaps more importantly, it demanded cooperation. You don't hunt a mammoth alone. You don't travel a glacier without trust. These people depended on each other, with a closeness modern life can barely imagine. And still, you see signs of loss. A child's tooth, buried beside a cluster of broken bones. A grave, maybe, marked only by a cairn of stones, each darkened by lichen, each placed with care. The cold doesn't discriminate. It takes the young as easily as the old. But even here, where resources are scarce and life is fragile, they buried their dead. They remembered. You sit by the cairn, legs tucked in, breathing slow. The silence returns, but now it feels shared. Because this land was shaped by more than mammoths and wolves, it was shaped by firelight, by footprints pressed into snow, by people who never wrote books, but who knew how to read the land in ways we've mostly forgotten. And as you stare into the dusk-glow horizon, you realise they're still here, not just in the DNA of those who came after, but in the tools, in the stories